Our next guests have quickly established themselves as the busiest, most formidable writing duo the thriller genre has to offer. From their popular Tier 1 series and spin-off franchise to their faith-based series at Tyndale, along with Webb Griffin's Presidential Agent series, these co-authors are pumping out books faster than anyone else. They met at Thriller Fest and became fast friends and business partners. And to top it all off, they're really great guys. Brian and Jeff, welcome to Thriller Talk.
Thanks for having us. Good to see you guys.
Great to be here.
It's sincerely always a pleasure to see you too. So I know that family is incredibly important to both of you, and it's inspiring how productive you are given all your other commitments. What aspects of family life offer inspiration for your fiction? Do you ever act out fight scenes with your loved ones or run story ideas by them?
No to the fight scenes.
Jeff, I thought your kids.
I don't think Karen or Wendy would be cool with that. But you know, it's so funny with this series that we have with Tyndale now, the second book coming out now. That's the one probably more than any, when you agree, Brian, where family has impacted it. Partly because you know, one of the main characters, Sarah Beth, you know, one of our main protagonists, is the age of our daughters, and I'm sure that wasn't an accident or a coincidence. It just sort of came out that way. But we have relied very heavily on Larkin and on Emma. Larkin is Brian's daughter, Emma's mine, and they're the same age and about the age of this character. And so what was really fun was getting their perspective, like letting them read a POV chapter from Sarah Beth's point of view and say, how's this look? And they were brutal. Like, they were like, dude, no 12-year-old, no 13-year-old would say that. No, they're not into that music. No, they don't like that toy or whatever. But also just getting into their minds was really, really helpful. And then the other thing is that we are very family-oriented people, as you know. Faith and family is huge for both of us. And this allowed us to explore that more than the military thrillers. We got to get into those relationships, the marital relationship with Rachel and her husband. And then, of course, the Uncle Jed and the father-daughter. I mean, it was really fun. The worst nightmare for any dad, right, would be something happening to their child. And that's how we start off this series in Dark Intercept. So for sure, that was an inspiration.
So I just finished Dark Angel, by the way. Thought it was absolutely brilliant. The new book in the Shepherd series you guys just talked about. I love the family stuff that speaks to me. By the way, I have a 13-year-old son, so I'm right there with you. But where'd the plot idea for this one come from?
Well, what was cool about Dark Angel is, and we didn't even realize it, I don't think it was intentional. It's just when we started writing it, it occurred to us that, you know, we can give Jed's sort of origin story, his Batman type of, you know, character arc, hero's journey, can really start almost in Dark Angel. Because if you look at Dark Intercept, it almost functions as a prologue, because now in Dark Angel, he's starting with the shepherds. We teased that out. He met them, he interacted with them, but he didn't really get a peek behind the curtain in that first book. But Ryan, as you know, since you've read it, in book 2, we yanked that curtain back. And one of the really cool things we got to do is think about, how do you take a guy who's senior, and he's already been through buds, you know, boot camp before that, and all this like rookie experience. He's not a rookie, but how do you get a team to bond, you know, when you have all these folks of different backgrounds, different ages, they're all veterans, you know, how do you get that bonding experience? And so we kind of turned that model on its head and said, hey, could you put a veteran through like a boot camp again? And, you know, how would that work? And so it was really fun to take that concept of, hey, we got to get these shepherds to bond, and how do we do it? And that's what we spent, you know, sort of the first part of that book developing.
Wow, well done. I mean, I think it's fantastic. And in the whole boot camp, imagine if you two right now had to go to boot camp, how would you feel about that?
I mean, yeah, no, that's a very good point. That's a
right. It's kind of fun to think about it. You know, when we're young and crazy, we do whatever, and then you kind of regroup. So you guys write so many novels. I'm really intrigued. by whether you have a character Bible or some other organizational method of keeping the details straight, because there's a lot to juggle, whether, you know, you reuse the same names or, you know, people's eye color.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We've only recently been asked that question a couple of times, and I guess I'm sort of surprised it hasn't come up more. But it's also something we never thought about until the first time someone asked us. The short answer is no. We don't keep anything like that. But I think that the reason is, as you both know, we write very character-driven stories, maybe unusually so for the thriller genre. And as a result, this sounds so corny. It sounds like something you say on an interview, right? But those characters become so real for us. They become so alive for us. Like, it would be impossible for me to inadvertently describe Jed the way I would describe, you know, Dempsey or Chunk or something like that, because I know them, and any more than I would make a mistake of describing one of my kids or one of my best friends or someone I served with. So when we're in a work, we're in their universe, we're in their world, they're intimate to us, we know them well. So it hasn't been necessary for us to do that. I could see how it would be advantageous. Maybe we should do it, because some of the secondary characters and minor characters, I suppose there's a risk of at some point getting redundant there. If it's happened, no one's pointed it out to us yet.
And that, you know, that there will be someone willing.
Well, someone will, yeah. That's why I feel pretty confident it hasn't happened, because someone would do it. They probably posted in a review, actually, is how it works.
I think we take sort of that Orson Scott Card approach, you know, like where you don't over describe, right? Let the reader's imagination sort of fill in the blanks. And so, yeah, we just, you know, we know Jed is big, really big, right? And we know Chunk is Chunk, he's a little bit shorter and stockier. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of details that we go into on the physical, you know, elements of these characters. And I think that's kind of by design, because now it's working our benefit because we're not going to mix them all up. But also, it's cool to think that, you know, you have thousands and thousands of readers and they all might picture, you know, these characters differently in their heads. And that's fun. That's fun, right? So it'd be really cool if there could be like this fan dialogue or like, well, what do you think, you know, Jed looks like? Oh no, I think he looks like this, you know. So
that would be really cool. We've all seen that TV show or movie adapted from a book, and the character isn't wrong. It's just not what you ever pictured, and it's jarring, right? And so it is nice to keep it a little vague, I guess.
Well, my favorite was when CJ Box was once asked about keeping a character Bible, and he said he didn't. And then he got asked, how old was Joe Pickett? And he didn't know. After 22 books, he wasn't sure. He had to go back and sort of add them all up and count the seasons and figure it out again. So I think it's an interesting thing to think about. If you can keep all that straight, then you're probably ahead of the curve. So with all the series that you have going, do either of you have a favorite one to write, or a character that maybe you prefer over the others? And is there one that's more challenging?
That's a good question.
That is a really good question. I would say, and this again sounds like a cheat that you say on an interview, but for me, at least, it's really true. My favorite one is what I'm writing right now, for sure, because we love all of them. And usually, because we're writing, you know, 4 books a year now or whatever it's up to, there's always a gap. Like, you've done other stuff. So about the time you come back, like we're finishing up book 7 right now in the Tier 1 series. We're writing Dempsey. Well, we haven't gotten to write Dempsey in a while. And so there's nothing more fun than writing Dempsey and Grimes and Kelso and all that, because we've taken a break from them. And so the way they sort of roll out, we're always in that mode. So I don't have a favorite one to write, but I can tell you that there are certainly ones that are more challenging than others. But I'm not even going to answer that part until I want to hear what Brian said. I've never asked him that. Is there a character that's more challenging than others to write? I have one in mind, but I want to hear Brian's first.
Yeah, I thought that Whitney Watts is the most challenging character so far. But we were very intentional about her, because we said, all right, you know, she's going to be a millennial, and we want her to think differently and act differently. And she's got a whole different mindset than, say, Elizabeth Grimes or Rachel. Or so, trying to, and then trying to be consistent, you know, because you really have to put your head in her mind space when you're writing her scenes, and she does not think like the rest of the characters in the book. And so you got to make sure that you don't drift out of that every time you pick her up. So I think I personally felt like she was more of a challenge, but also it made it really, really fun to write her too.
Yeah, no, that's right. For me, Whitney, I can see Whitney. That would probably be my second one. My first one is definitely Sarah Beth in the Shepherd series. And it's a couple reasons. One, her age. Like when I do the same thing you do, Brian, when I'm writing a character, like I'm in there, I try to see the world through their eyes and through their mind and think like they think as I'm writing. And that's a challenge for Whitney. I agree with that, but not as challenging as a 12, now 13-year-old girl, right? That's really, now thank goodness we have our daughters to nurse us along. But the other part that makes her challenging is that intimacy we have with our daughters, because we've written her in some really horrible stuff, like some really bad things have happened to her, and it's emotionally very difficult to write that, because I have to admit, when I write her, I am picturing Emma. So writing her into these horrible things and these terrifying, that should never happen to a girl that age is difficult for me.
And that age in particular is an interesting one, that 12 to 13-year-old, because they're like that tween age, right? Like, so sometimes they really sort of are younger than they look older than they are. They've only been around on this planet for 12 years, but then sometimes, they surprise you and they act, beyond their years with courage or insights and stuff. So it is a very, very challenging age to be, because I think they don't even know, they're sort of a little schizophrenic about, am I kind of going back to my, my fifth grade type of personality, or am I trying to be my high school type of personality?
And then there's the fact that we as parents or adults in general, we constantly underestimate that age, right?
Yeah.
Because they're still 6. They're still my little daughter, right? And so that was something that we tried very hard to put into Sarah Beth. We wanted the reader, along with our other adult characters, to constantly be shocked at her rising to the occasion. And I think that's what they would do. I think that's what Larkin would do. I think that's what Emma would do. I think they would surprise us at how they could rally and meet the situation beyond their own expectations. And we put a lot of that into Sarah.
Well, and the other cool thing that just occurred to me is, and I don't know how many readers will pick up on this, but you've got Jed has his relationship with Sarah Beth, and he is not a father. So he's, quote, Uncle Jed, but he views her with her in his own way, like how capable he thinks she is and how mature he thinks she is. But then you have her parents, right? So you're getting to look at Sarah Beth from Rachel and David's perspective and Jed's perspective, and you have her own POV. And she has different opinions. Oh, well, mom's very protective of me, but Uncle Jed thinks I can do this, And so it's interesting how you have a guy who, SEAL, tough, just never been a dad, been around all these tough guys. And then how he looks at this little girl and he sees maybe some strength that her own parents don't even recognize. So that's kind of cool too, that with this character, you really get a 360 perspective of her. And the reader is the one who has to decide, well, who's right, or is anybody right? So
I absolutely love that, because really the best way to showcase a character is to see them through different people's eyes, as you said. So, and you're doing a really good job with that, with, like you said, parents and kind of uncle figure. And yeah, I really, really enjoy, and I think I think you've done a fantastic job of capturing the voice. So kudos to your daughters as well.
Yeah, it's all there.
thanks.
Anyway, so my next question is a two-parter. One is, which writers have really inspired you in this genre? And then, if you're going on a beach vacation tomorrow, which book are you taking with you to sit and sip a pina colada with?
I mean, I'm inspired by a lot of our fellow military veterans who are just blazing path in this genre. So, I mean, you can see we've got in Jeff's background, there's the Clancy book from Don Bentley, and it's in my background too. And Josh Hood's book is back there, so, maybe it's a little bit because of we feel part of that brotherhood and we feel connected to these folks, but it's really exciting to see, veterans stepping forward and, telling authentic stories. Because in the past, Tom Clancy was a great writer, but he wasn't a veteran. He would go out and he would tour and he would immerse himself. He would get access to ride along on a submarine or on a destroyer, and he would ask lots of questions. but it's not the same as actually having gone through the whole system and lived and worked and breathed and sweat and cried and served arm in arm with veterans. So it's really cool for us. We like the fact that we can share that, but it's cool that we have a community, just like the whole ITW community is a community of thriller writers. Inside that, there's a little microcosm of military veteran authors.
Yeah, I agree with all that. In terms of the Pina Colada question, it really depends on the timing of what just came out, right? I mean, I'm a huge fan of everyone that he listed. Love Mark Cameron's stuff. If one of those had just come out, right? If Green's book had just come out. For sure, I'm a huge Stephen King fan, as everybody knows. So especially his latest stuff. So they're all great. It just depends on what I haven't read at the moment that the Pina Colada is available. Plus, we don't get very many Pina Coladas anymore because if we've got time to read, I should probably be writing, or else Brian yells at me.
You gotta be careful.
Or hey, we got Ryan, you got a book coming out. So that's
I'm just saying, I just got galleys in mine. I'll meet you on the beach tomorrow if you want. Let's go. I'm ready.
And Kim, I'm sure you've got a work in progress. We could read a work in progress while sipping a margarita or a pina colada.
I'll sip the pina coladas while you write, Jeff, if it makes you feel better.
I love it.
I'm there. You guys answered one of my questions that I had. I've gotten this a lot lately, by the way. So both on Twitter, Real Books by email, everyone that's wanted to know, are there going to be more tier 1 books? You obviously just mentioned a little bit ago that you're working on one. Can you tell us anything about that? And when do you think it'll come out?
Well, it's scheduled to come out February of 23, so a year from now. And we can't tell you too much about it. Everyone that read Collateral saw the cliffhanger that we left, where Kelso Jarvis walks on the beach with Dempsey and tasks him with something that we don't know anything about. And so this book will definitely, the book is called Dempsey, and there's a reason for that. It does focus on John specifically and on his evolution, which we have been describing over the last 6 books, from door-kicking Navy SEAL to covert operator. And this, I would say, Brian, would you agree that this particular operation would complete that evolution for him? Yeah. So it definitely is a follow-on to what happened in Collateral, the Russia plot in that book, and our Putin analog, Vladimir Petrov, and his aims to recreate the Soviet Union continue in this book, and Dempsey will definitely be involved in that. So that's probably about all we can say about that one.
Well,
I think that's going to get people excited, by the way.
Yeah. And it seems to be relatively timely. So
better to be lucky than good, Kimberly. Better to be lucky than good.
Right? Okay. I love the fact that, you're 2 talented authors coming together, co-writing. What I'd like to hear from each of you is what you think your partner brings as far as strengths to the partnership.
Brian brings the verbs. And
the verbs.
He brings the nouns.
Right.
I've been asking to pick out some nouns, and I think maybe a future book he might let me.
If it's not broken, Brian.
We love that question and we hate that question, right? Yeah. We love that question because we're happy to gush about each other's, skills and energy and creativity and enthusiasm. But at the same time, it's also kind of a personal question, because one of the great things about our partnership is the fact that we have a lot of trust with each other. And it's hard for me to say on a daily basis what it is that, when I fall down and he puts his hand down and lifts me up, and vice versa. It's hard to pick out those particular moments and say that, well, I'm weak here and he's strong there, and this is how we always are augmenting each other. Because I think there's been this evolution, and we've talked about this. When I first started writing, I was very slow and meticulous, and it took me 8 years to write my first book. And that sounds pretty absurd when you think about the pace that we're working at together now. And, I learned from Jeff that, you just got to put words on the page and tell the story and get inside the character's head. And it doesn't really matter if it's perfect on the first draft. We're with us working together, we get that story out there, and then we start tearing it apart and fixing it as we go along. And so I'm much more productive and efficient now. And also, I think I'm willing to, be much more open to self-critique and looking at, hey, just because I wrote this sentence doesn't mean it's perfect, or doesn't mean it's right, or doesn't mean it's the best way that sentence could be. So, I mean, I really credit Jeff for this whole concept of the partnership and taking ego out of the equation and trusting each other to build, something that I couldn't do by myself.
And I'll say that, and it sounds like I'm just sort of dovetailing on what he said, and I am a little, but my weakness coming in, the only one that I will describe publicly, I have many of them, but is that I was never very good at the editorial process of writing. And it's the most important, we all know, everyone on this one, that's when the novel is created, like here. And that's why I've always been one to just get it on the page and then fix it. But I think that Brian has taught me a lot about what that process should look like and how to be efficient in that process, what works and what doesn't. Obviously, I've done plenty of editing before him, but I hated it back then. Sure. And now when we're doing DE on a novel, I actually look forward to it because I know that we're making it better, and some of the skills I've learned from Brian because he is very meticulous. So I think we've balanced each other out in that way.
It's a good answer, though. You guys have done and accomplished so much in your careers. Is there anything that you still want to do, or a goal that you'd like to see accomplished? And what drives you to keep writing so many books per year? Brian said it took 8 years to write your first book, and you're writing books now in 8 weeks, pretty quick compared to that, right? So what drives you?
Well, I think we're storytellers first and foremost. And I think, in the last, I don't know, maybe 2 years, we sort of realized that, we love writing books, but we also are interested in exploring some other mediums too. So our audiobooks are doing really well. And so we were very intentional about how we write. We write so our books can be performed. If you look at the tags that we use, the way we structure our dialogue, the way that information is conveyed in such a way that if you couldn't see it on the page, you're only forced to listen to the narrator, you still get the full picture of what's going on. And so that's a medium we want to look at. We want to have people who don't like to read but want to listen. We want them to enjoy our product. But also film and television is something. I can kick this one over to Jeff, but film and television is an area that we're interested in exploring too.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, that's it was probably, you're right, about 2 years ago that we started thinking about our brand and what is it really, and I think we stopped at that point thinking of ourselves as novelists and focused more on being good storytellers. And it's because we're sort of keyed into how this market is changing, within the multiple demographics are multiple platforms of storytelling. And if you're just going to write a novel, you can do very well. Obviously, I'm not complaining. We're doing great. In terms of business and finances, but we're not reaching everybody. And isn't that every writer's dream, right? You want everyone on the planet to have enjoyed at least one of your stories. And the days when you can do that just writing novels are over. There's a generation that is into graphic novels. There's a generation that only watches streaming television. There's a generation that's more into film. And so we want to be able to be Andrews and Wilson, the storytellers across medias. And that's why this relationship with Blackstone has been so perfect for us. As you know, we have our faith-based stuff with Tyndale, the best Christian fiction publisher in the world. The rest of our stuff is at Blackstone, and Blackstone sort of has that vision of let's get stories to the people in whatever format they're appropriate for. So they have been instrumental in helping us do that. So right now we have, again, I can't get into a lot of detail. You guys know that the Shepherd series is under development for television already. We're very excited about that. We also recently closed a film deal on another project that we're not, I think we're not supposed to announce which project it is just yet. And we actually are working on 2 others with different producers right now. So we have close to a half a dozen things in various stages of development in other forms of media. Hopefully by the time we see you in the summer, we'll be able to share more details. But that's something that's been very, very exciting, to be able to approach things in your books with an eye towards media, looking at things and pitching it on a media side with an idea that it evolves into a book. We do it in both directions now, and Blackstone has been enormously supportive of that, instrumental, I would say, in supporting that.
That's really wonderful to hear. I feel like you're exactly right that we have to think outside the box now with audiobooks booming, with the like book to television, book to streaming series is huge. I mean, they're really interested in content, and you guys have the perfect stories for those. So I can't wait to hear the good news. Share as soon as you can. In the meantime, can you tell us about one of your funniest or strangest fan interactions?
Well, Jeff, what about, I mean, I don't want to get into too much details, but we got an email from a guy who had just read Dark Intercept, and he said, can we share that one?
Yeah, I think so. With that, as long as we don't share a name, right?
Okay. So we got an email from a guy who said, I just finished Dark Intercept, and I wanted to tell you that I'm retired military. And there's a group of us that have teamed together. We're all retired law enforcement or military. And we call our call sign on the radio is the Shepherds. We call ourselves the Shepherds. And we help. What we do is we go to law enforcement in different communities, and we help them when they don't have the resources to find missing children, drug trafficking, human trafficking investigations, and things like that. And so really, it's the human trafficking, missing kids thing that they're most involved in. And we go out, we try to help them identify the bad guys and find the people that need help. And it's just sort of weird, right? Because that's what Jed's doing. I mean, that the Shepherds, that's them. And suddenly, like, there's kind of a Shepherds, like informal Shepherds in real life. That was weird.
Yeah, that was weird. And they're a faith-based organization. They talked about how, everybody is brought together by a common faith, and the elements of spiritual warfare in our books resonated with them. They see, evil and good in the same way that we do. And so, yeah, that one was really cool, but very strange.
Yeah.
So Dark Angel comes out April 5th. Sons of Valor 2 releases June 7th. Anything else coming out from you guys this year? Maybe another Webb Griffin book? And what's next?
Well, we've got, so with the Sons of Valor is going to be coming in June. You know that about Dark Angel. In the fall, we have the third book in the Shepherd series. Tyndale was very proactive in this approach to launching a series. They're feeling that if you really want a series to be successful, those first 3 books are important, and you need to get them out kind of close together. So we will have released all 3 of those books in a span of 13 months, I guess, something like that. So in the fall, Dark Fall, book 3 will be coming out. And then Dempsey, book 7, comes out in 23. And then we continue with that series. We continue with Sons of Valor, Tier 1. And also in 2023, we're very excited that we're launching the first book in a series of techno thrillers that we have been working on. The first book is called Sandbox and comes out a year from this fall. So, and then I don't know, then it's blurry after that. That's as far as I can look.
I guess my only question is, do you guys sleep?
Not as much as we want to.
In shifts. We sleep in shifts. We hot rack like they do on a submarine.
I almost believe you. Congratulations on your success. You are truly an inspirational pair. I mean, the fact that, first of all, you met at Thriller Fest touches my heart. Second of all, you are such good people, and you help others all the time. All the stuff you've done for Navy SEALs, and it's really lovely to see you triumph in so many different subgenres of your field. And I really hope to see more with kind of these characters that are unusual for you guys in the sense of a 12 or 13-year-old girl. So keep it going, because it's great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for a great interview.
Oh, as always, it's a pleasure. Anyway, thanks a lot for joining us today, Ryan. Any other questions or?
No, I mean, I'm excited about all the upcoming projects, and hopefully we get to learn more about the movie stuff soon.